For those of you who don't know, my name is Kayleen Harrington. I recently joined the Norfolk Chamber of Commerce and I've been looking after, I am looking after their events programme moving forward. So I really hope you've been enjoying the virtual events that we've been offering, and thank you again for joining us this morning. I'm super excited to let you know that we've launched our brand new recovery programme virtual events, which support businesses to restart, rebuild and renew. Our next event is on Monday the 28th of September at 2 o'clock, and we'll focus on how to build an online community with social media. I'll put a link to this with the events link in the chat function, so feel free to view this after the webinar and book on any. They are completely free to attend, and that's for members and non-members. So, whatever sector you're in, building and sustaining sales relationships is vital to the growth and success of your business. Today's clients and prospects are far more sophisticated. Gone are the days of selling to. You need to be able to communicate as a trusted advisor, not a supplier. In this 60-minute webinar, Glenn Hoy, owner of Time Associates, will go through the Panda effective sales process. Because this is a stage process, you'll always be able to identify what went right and what may have gone wrong. So, you're welcome to ask him questions during the presentation and after each section. There'll also be a live Q&A afterwards. So please use the Q&A function when you have any questions. So, Glenn, over to you.
Good and Kayleen, thank you very much. So a very good morning to our online and offline community. Thank you so much for investing this time, and I think that's the best start I could ever get, that you've taken time out of your busy days to come on board. Just to go through, we are running this on PowerPoint because it helps me get my points across. Panda is a process. It's not, there are no smoke and mirrors, there's no glib phrases. I know them all, I invented some of them. I learned Panda over 30 years ago when I was very privileged to work for Eastern Counties newspapers, as was in their sales team. And at the time, life was easy because if you wanted to sell anything in Norfolk, I told you to put an ad in the EDP, and you did and you did. And if you wanted to advertise, sell anything in Norwich, I suggested you put it in the Evening News, and you did and you did. Life's much more diverse now. So we, as the people in our businesses that are responsible for building and sustaining relationships, and this is all about relationships. Transactional selling has its place, but I do believe that in the society we're in now and we're going into, relationship selling is really important. It's 100% guaranteed to us. So I'm challenging myself through you today, is to say that if there's any part of this process that doesn't make sense to you, that's my fault, and I haven't explained it properly for you as an individual, not you as a group. So, but you have to follow the steps in the correct order. It has to begin with P and end with A. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break each of them down and go through them one at a time and give you some scenario and some hints and tips. But at any time, pop a question in the chat, ask questions at the end. It really, really is the more interactive we can make this, the more successful it will be. Because what I tend to find is someone's thinking of a question, but maybe is a bit nervous or inhibited to ask it. Someone else asks it and they go, great, oh yeah. So this is your webinar, not mine. So one of the first things is to avoid death by PowerPoint. So there isn't a great deal of content. There aren't that many images, but it's there. I really, really, really do. And this is part of the Panda effective sales process when you're having meetings, which this is, take notes and then feedback from those notes. The good old fashioned pen and paper still has its merits. I've been to meetings where people have been taking notes on iPads or similar, or MacBooks or similar, and actually it's quite distracting. Whereas if you're engaging with somebody and you're taking some notes, then it works well. So at any time, Kane is going to manage me and manage our time. If you feel you want to stop, if I think it's going to be covered later on, I will. If not, we'll take the question. But at the end of each section, there's an opportunity to ask questions. Okay, here he is, your new best friend. Kading's smiling. I hope everybody's smiling. When I go to face-to-face meetings, I take it's not a giant Panda, I take a 2-foot version of it with me. And I also have some little giveaways, some little I think about 6 inches. I give them away, and I just say to everybody, if you've got the Panda on your desk when you've gone through the Panda effective relationship process, you're fine, because it's your little reminder, and I'm guessing everybody. So either have it visually or get yourself a little Panda. It's always good to go toy shopping anyway. Okay, everything depends on stage one. It all crumbles if stage one preparation isn't conducted. So I'm asking you, I'm challenging you now to say the things that I'm going to raise, the topics I'm going to raise, do you do it well, and do you do it all the time? Because it's really important that you do it well and you do it all the time. And, you know, perfect preparation prevents particularly poor performance. We've all heard all the bits and bobs, but the reality is your personal preparation begins with timekeeping. If you are somebody that is easily distracted, hands up here, then you need to work harder at this. So as I said, there's nothing brand spanking new, but just question yourself and your team involved in relationships for your company, what their timekeeping's like. If you're going to a face-to-face meeting, if we can still remember what they used to be like, are you the one that 10 minutes before the meeting is still trying to find a car parking space? Are you the one that, if it's outside an office block, burns the rubber as you ride? Or are you the person that has the time, either metaphorically or actually, to have that cup of coffee? Get your timekeeping right. I'm an early bird. I make no bones for it. Understand other people's rhythms as well. So my working day tends to start 6:30-ish, and I can prepare myself properly then, and I can follow up from stuff the night before the world starts at 9 o'clock. I'd equally say I've got colleagues that are night birds. It works really well if you're an early bird and they're a night bird, because they send you stuff and you get it done. But if timekeeping is an issue, and it starts very basically with getting out of bed, the reality is that just about everybody, if not everybody, on this webinar today or listening to this afterwards, you're good timekeepers, because you have to be. You've all managed to get here on time. Fantastic, and thank you. This is personal preparation. Appearance is important. I had some coaching, believe it or believe it not, before today's webinar, and the gentleman that coached me said that the lighting wasn't good. This side of my face was dark, so I've got a table lamp, and he also advised me to change my shirt from my favorite red, white and blue check shirt, feeling very patriotic, into something that is slightly less offending. And yeah, I am wearing shorts, and he also suggested, if you're doing this for the first time with a new client or a prospect, you even consider wearing a jacket, because first impressions count. Appearance is good. From the gentleman of the species, am I cleanly shaven? Is my hair quite presentable, or does it look like I've just tumbled out of bed? I did say there's nothing brand spanking new, but I suspect if when we do this in a face-to-face environment, I can see people looking at their feet because the shoes haven't been clean. I can see people looking at someone else because they're trying to eye track them away from the fact that they know that their timekeeping and their appearance isn't what it should be. Getting better, not good. There's a Swedish working process called LAGOM, L-A-G-O-M, which basically means you allocate chunks of time throughout the day to do certain tasks. And those tasks fall into two main categories. One is collaboration, that's where you're doing things like this, and one is focus, when you've got your own tasks to work on. However you do it, whether you do it in a very formal basis, I know people that won't look at an email between this hour and that hour. I know people that have their email notifications popping up almost every second. Guess which one's more prepared? I mean, a lot of people that have what they call sales days. They'll have a sales blitz. We're all going to do sales on Monday or Friday or Thursday or whenever it may well be. And invariably, within an hour, a lot of emotional energy and actual energy starts to dissipate, because life's not like that. The people that you're trying to interact with aren't sat there waiting for you to send them an email, open a letter you've sent them, or make a call. I recommend strongly, and I've got the world's simplest spreadsheet. You can create it in about 2 minutes yourselves. List the days across the top, list the times down the left-hand side from whenever you start, whether that's 7:30, in 15-minute intervals, and then just block out those times so you can see it visually. Excuse me. You can see visually what should be sales time, and then that becomes sacrosanct. So this is you getting yourself ready. You don't need to do any of these things with anybody else. You do these all on your own. So this isn't a question of waiting for someone in your organization or someone in your company to prompt you to do that. And you will see from tomorrow onwards, or from 12 o'clock onwards, when this finishes and you get back to your desks, you will see a noticeable upswing in how you feel about yourself in relation to sales. This is why Panda never fails. Why, as I will do today, I'm challenging myself. If this was a paid for event, there would be a 100% money back guaranteed, and have never, ever, ever paid a penny back. And the challenge today is, if anybody on this course thinks that any of these aren't working, please let Kayleen know, because I will make a donation to charity. I'm not going to pay you, but I will make a donation to charity. That's how successful this is. So that's yourselves. It all begins with you. People buy from people. You have to get yourself properly prepared. You'll know what those triggers are. For myself and Kayleen, we started rehearsing for this at 10 o'clock. I had my pre-webinar briefing from my presentation guru, a gentleman called Colin McLean, at 8:30. I thought it was worthwhile investing half an hour with Kayleen and half an hour with Colin to get myself ready for this. So in terms of professional preparation, and this is where you may need to interact with other members of your company, or you may need to run your thoughts and views across them. Make this as much a team environment if you can. If you run your own business, then you will have a network of trusted contacts, whether it's in a formal networking environment or just people that you know and like and trust. You need to have an encyclopedic knowledge of your company's products and services, and what their benefits and solutions are, not just what the products are. I worked for Auto Trader for about 10 years, and I met the guy that founded it, called John Medeski, 3 or 4 times. And he always had 3 very simple rules, one of which was know your price list, know your products and services, know the fact that if somebody's going to advertise in Auto Trader, why it's going to work for them, not how it works for you. Do a little test, have a little game, play it amongst your team. Do what I would call a product knowledge quiz, and ask people to come up with benefits and solutions, not features. So, old styley, sell me this pen. It's not a pen. What does the pen do? Love your price list. If you don't love your price list, and you're not prepared with knowledge and loving your price list, you will come across as hesitant. And a potential customer or even an existing client will pick that up in absolutely next to no time. And guess what? Further down the line, that's where you get price objections. You have to be proud of your price list. Please, by all means, revisit it. And if you think it needs changing or amending, normally upwards, but do it. Love your prices. Be proud of your prices. Be proud of your products. Be proud of your prices. Because that way, when you go to meetings, whether they're like this, they're online, or you're meeting face to face, when you are communicating with prospects and clients, you will know that you can completely justify your prices. One of the other things that John Medeski taught me, and I've taken it into every part of my business career since, was give somebody your best price and best terms first. So if you know that this could be your best price based on criteria that you've set, and these are your best terms. So if there are discounts available for certain interactions, tell them what they are straight away and stick to it. I find it really frustrating when you're talking to somebody and you ask them the question, is this the best price you can do? And are these your best terms? And they say, well, we could. I'm losing trust already. If you come to me and we want to talk about business, we'll find out what we need to find out. I'll make a proposal. Within it will be my best prices and my best terms. Now, if you want the cheapest price, you're not going to get the most extended terms. Makes sense. So just going back onto professional preparation, we touched on the personal, there's your amount of time, how much within your bit. I know you've got so many other things you do, and sales may not even be your primary role. Not a problem. It's about relationships. If you're part of the relationship process, if someone wins the business and you handle the client, it's part of the sale. It's part of the ongoing stuff. So pretty simple, but really works. How much time am I putting in for those two key tasks, sales and marketing? We're not covering marketing today, but the principles are the same. This process works equally in, I could have called it the Panda effective sales and marketing process. It's the same, but we just give you that. And the reason for the illustration is make your notes, take it back and think, okay, how much time do I invest? Okay, so you're ready. You've got yourself ready personally. You're looking good. You're feeling good. You're ready to go along. What we need to do now is we need to find a way to share our opportunities, share our messages with our clients and prospects. And I use both sets because sometimes existing customers, and you probably all heard of a thing called the loyalty ladder, can sometimes be ignored and taken for granted. And that's not good. And further down the line, that isn't a sales relationship, that's just sales transactions. So what can we do? What can you do to get attention? Firstly, you need to make sure that your verbal and your written comms encourage two-way responses. It's not just all about you. It's communications that will encourage them to interact with you as soon as they possibly can. Again, I'm not teaching you too much that's brand spanking new, but just test it again. If you've written an email and it's not clear within the 8 seconds, or a letter that's not clear within the 8 seconds attention span, emails may actually be less than that. And that's why subject matter and content and brevity are so important. But on the telephone, you've got 8 seconds to get that level of engagement. Now, we're not covering how today. I'd be more than happy to talk to you individually about how you can do that. But fundamentally, if we're talking about the telephone, it's what you do to get them understanding they actually want to talk to you, that there is something in it for them right at the beginning of the conversation. And that never works, never, ever, ever, ever works if you go on the phone and say, hi, my name's Glenn, I'm from Time Associates. And at Time Associates, we do, they've gone. I'm going to offer you an opportunity in a bit to help you with this, if that's what you want me to do. But think about tonality. Think about when you write a letter, how many times you write you, i.e. we're thinking about them, as opposed to I. One of my clients is really, really, really high up in the world of education, particularly primary and secondary education. He wrote an email the other day, which the subject matter is absolutely bang on message. It's about providing school children with better support with their education, particularly through physical education right now. He sent me a draft email which had 5 small paragraphs and some really nice links and a video. Every paragraph began with I. So if you want to look at an email or a letter that you've sent recently, if you want to send it to me, we'll have my contact information at the end. I'm more than happy to critique it. I have 3 very distinct rules with the critique work I do like this. Is 1, you can use my suggested amendments. 2, you can actually take some of my amendments, and if there are any, and add it to yours. Or 3, you can completely disregard what I've said. I'm in no way, shape or form precious about what goes on. All it is I'm looking at it outside of your environment. I'm looking at it as a reader, not a writer. And if you can do that again, and I always, and again, just a little tip if you like, think of an email you want to send to someone and share it with either someone inside your business or someone that you know knows where you're coming from, and just say, I'm thinking of sending this email to Kayleen at Chamber of Commerce. I'm trying to get this message across. What do you think? Now, I think in selling, particularly if you're open-minded, then you can get on. Or if it's telephone based, and I can probably see about at least half of you sitting back in your seats now thinking, oh, I hate using the telephone. Not a problem. Not a problem. That's another conversation for another day, which I'm happy to have with you. Don't be frightened of using the telephone. It is fast becoming, it's going back to where it was. When I worked for Auto Trader and when I worked for Arch and Eastern Counties newspapers groups, by far the biggest amount of money was brought in by the telesales teams. And that was because they had more customers. They didn't have any of the prestige customers, the big flash new car dealerships. However, the telephone done properly is an amazing tool. So if that helps in any way, shape or form, I'm happy to do that. But just think, this is your learning point from this particular topic. Just think that if your comms, whether that's written or verbal, are more than 30% about you, I, me, my company, this is, then you've got the wrong focus. You are the writer, not the reader. Think about how someone's going to read it or hear it. And if you want, we can practice a couple of telephone calls as well. I'm more than happy to do that. I've made a commitment to Kaylin and the team that it's not just presenting today and then disappearing. If you want to get back in touch, happy to do it. Okay, so that's point 2. And if you're not properly prepared, professionally and personally, you will not be ready to communicate with them to get their attention properly. So here we go. Number 1 is preparation. Number 2 is attention. If you jump to number 2 before you get to number 1, it's going to crash and burn. It won't work because you'll be flying by the seat of your pants. You'll be relying on things I hear, instinct, experience, gut feelings, and all those different things. I did say there's no glib phrases and smoke and mirrors. Okay. Right. 3 and 4 must stick in this. You have to do 3 before you do 4, and I'll explain why when we get to point 4. So, Kaylin, have we had any questions from either of the first topics? No.
No questions yet, but I didn't know if you wanted to do a couple of polls before you started 3.
That would be really good. Thank you very much.
So basically what we're going to do, I'm going to launch a poll, and the question is, has anyone heard of Panda? So it's currently launched. So if you go to your poll button along the bottom, you should be able to answer the questions, and they're coming in quick and fast. So yeah, if you're unsure, along the bottom of your taskbar, there's a poll. If you go in, the questions in there, just give it a couple more seconds, and then what I'll do is I'll end and I'll launch the results, and then Glenn, you'll be able to see it.
Thank you.
So I've just ended it, and I've shared the results. So it shows that 95% of people on the webinar this morning have never heard of Panda, and 1% said unsure.
No. Absolutely what I expected. It's often 100% to naught. Those that have, if there's the odd person that's heard of Panda, it's, I don't know how, but they do. The thing is, it's the process you need to understand. We use the fluffy animal and we use the 5-stage mnemonic so you can remember it and practice it. So if you haven't, it doesn't matter. But hopefully what we're seeing as we go through this is all the things that you currently do, used to do, need to do, all fit into this 5-stage process. So thank you.
Perfect. Do you want me to launch the second one? Or
yeah, that'll be good. Thank you.
So I've just launched the second question. So it's, do you use emails to communicate with your customers and prospects? So I'll just give you a couple of seconds. It's literally just a yes or no answer. So yeah, we'll give it a couple more seconds. So this doesn't surprise me at all. So 100% said yes, that they use emails to communicate with their customers.
Okay. Hopefully, now you've listened to stage 2, the attention, you'll understand that you might want to think of a slightly different tonality or messaging in your emails, because if you're emailing prospects, particularly that people you don't have a relationship with yet, then it's really important that you use that one chance to make a first impression. And yes, attachments and links and videos are really important, but it's that 8-second rule. If you're using emails, then make sure that you follow the stages 1 and 2, that you don't just, and I heard this the other day, well, I know what I'll do, I'll fire off a quick email. Just a red flag. It's like an emergency warning. And I said, oh, really? And that's as polite as I could possibly be. Okay. So thank you. And we'll do another poll at the end of this particular subject if we can as well. So how do you find out what they need and want? Firstly, and it's not on the slide, the one thing that people love doing most, professionally, I mean, is talking about themselves and their business. So if you can engage with them and ask proper relevant questions about them and their business, and there are two factors to this. There are the people themselves within their business, and you'll quickly find out if they like what they're doing or don't. And that in itself is helping with your needs and wants. And you'll find out the pride, in most cases, the pride that people have in their company. So ask questions. That's the right way to do this. Don't provide solutions just yet. Ask questions. I always have a pen and pad, a big A4 line pad. When I go to a meeting, I've got one now. I'm making notes. And I would say to people, set this up to have a better understanding of how we could possibly work together. I know you've expressed an interest in X. I really would like to find out a bit more and ask you a few questions. Are you okay with that? No one's ever said no? No one's ever said no. I don't want you to ask me any questions. I just want to tell me what you're doing, give me the price. If you get to that, then that's a sad situation. Again, because of time today, we don't have forever to go through what those questions are. But if you get in your mindset that when I send an email, send a letter, make a telephone call, have a meeting, whether that's a face-to-face meeting or a virtual meeting, my positioning is going to be, I am the questioner. Remember I said reader and writer. Now I am the questioner. I'm the question master. That's my role in this. Probably all heard of this. If they're not actually brand spanking new to business and you'll be their first ever provider of products and services in your field, then there will be some rationale or reasoning as to why they are interested in talking to you. It may well be that they're being polite. It may well be that they're looking at things like a competitive quote. I did turn it on silent, I promise. Or it could well be that something's gone drastically wrong with our existing relationship. I call those pain points. Now, I wouldn't say, what are your pain points? I would just say, are there any things going on in your business right now in terms of what we could potentially do together that you feel needs addressing quickly? Can you see or can you hear that what we're doing is we're coming across as very advisory? We're not pushing. To me, we're going to cover it in a bit, but to me, it's really important at this stage that what is called the needs and wants diagnosis, that you can find out from them what their perceived return on investment is. And you ask that. And I would say, if I was talking to somebody potentially using my services, I would say, really early on in the conversation, I want to try and find out what you're going to get from it. Your investment in my time and money you may well spend with me has to have an endpoint. Now, often it's against some really, really tight and well set KPIs. It could be, I want to generate another £50,000 worth of income. I want to find ways of turning my average sales value up from £7,000 to £10,000. All of those things are really important, because if someone says to you, I'm looking at £50,000 worth of new business growth, for example, then I'd say over how long? Over a 12-month period. You know that their margin in that probably means there's enough in it for you to work together. If someone says, well, I don't really know, you should stop at this process and do some more digging and to say, your return on investment is really important to me. That's advisory, that's supporters, that's displaying empathy. Don't carry on. This is where the unstructured, unlearned salesperson, they ask 2 or 3 quick questions, they get a couple of things that are called buying signals, and they crack on. Right, now you can hear about me. If you think you've asked enough questions, have another couple. I always go in on my little chart with pre-prepared questions. Sometimes I'll actually send the questions ahead of the meeting just to say, I've got a few questions. Would you mind, we'll cover these during the course of the meeting. I set their expectations. But often it's just a question, oh, okay, well, so for example, it may not be relevant right now, but you haven't asked me about price. We know price is going to be an issue at some stage. we might as well be the one to bring up. It's often called an objection. I don't think price is an objection. I just think price is a way of justifying the decision there makes a good one. So don't be tempted, even if the meeting's going really well, to go too far too soon. If you jump from the needs and wants straight into defining the proposition, I absolutely guarantee you, you've missed a selling opportunity. There will be something else that isn't quite there. And even if you have to get to the stage right at the end where they're questioned out, you warn them to a frazzle, they're on the knees, metaphorically. Right, is there anything else you want to cover right now? No, great, we can move on then. So this is something that's really become very topical over the last few months. Discretionary purchase. That is, are they already doing it? Can they get it in some other way? And I look at some elements of professional services like that. So my field is helping people develop growth in their business through sales. Other people's expertise may be in accountancy. It could be in all sorts of things. It could be a well-being coach. But these things, some of these things tend to fit under discretionary purchases. Some of the harder skills don't. I'm just going to give you 3 ways to help you get to the right place, and we've covered them before. If you know what their pain is, you are moving away from being discretionary to being necessary. Not you, but they need a necessary solution because they've got some pain in their bid. And it's often the amount of time that they have to invest in what you do is the pain point. It may not be that they're not doing it very well, but it could be, for example, that their business growth is inhibited because it's only them doing it. And you might be the one that can come in and say, well, actually, if I took this task away from you, which could be bookkeeping, supply, whatever it may well be, then actually what would happen here is you'd have more time to do the things that you feel you can impact on most. The people I engage with, it's often, they almost want to outsource sales because they don't have confidence. This process gives you that necessary level of confidence because you know where you are. Talked about the ROI, so this is your little 3-point test. What's their perceived ROI? What would you like to get out of this relationship? If we do work together, and there will be a cost involved, you've raised costs 3 times now, you're leading the cost objection, which is brilliant. And then there's loads of stuff online, and again, I'm happy to point you in the right direction on benefits and not just features. So it's not what it does, it's how it works. So I'll just go back one. P for previous. So benefits of you and your company, what they're going to get from you, and we're going to cover it next time round. Kayleen, if there's no questions now, do you want to run another poll for us right now?
So we have got a question and we've also got a statement. So it's up to you if you want to do poll first, then the questions, or whether you'd like the question, then poll.
No, questions would be good. I like questions.
So we've had a question from, and again, I love this name, Helen Van Stone. Hi, I do a lot of personal growth. Hang on. Hi, I do a lot of personal growth work where tapping into your own intuition gets results. How would you respond to this? Can this be used in conjunction with your recommendations?
Absolutely, 100%, because most of what we do is intuitive. This is why I said right at the beginning, you probably do a lot of this already, you just don't know you're doing it. So if you wanted to run the things in parallel, you'll be able to see where your intuition fits into this particular part of the sales process. People do buy from people first, and your love and your passion of your business and your services will be really, really important. These are absolutely complementary. And again, if you want to pick the conversation up on a one-to-one after this, be more than happy to do that. I don't want anybody to change what they're doing radically, because that would be too much too soon. But all I'm saying is if you think to yourself, okay, this goes right because I do actually follow this process, and here's where it breaks down a little bit. And it's often in the bit between 3 and 4. But if you don't do 1 and 2, right, then 3 and 4 are almost irrelevant. So hopefully that's an answer for today, but I'm more than happy to pick up on it afterwards if that helps.
Thank you. And then Nigel Austin is just in agreement. So he says, Glenn, your point on telesales, I think many people are fed up with Zoom, sorry. MS Teams, WhatsApp video. I've been experimenting more recently with just regular phone calls, as it's easier to focus on the conversation, as less distractions. The quality of the conversation is much better.
Good. Yeah, it's a vastly underestimated selling tool done properly. And if you don't have telephone calls as a regular part of your prospecting or client relationship development, you really should be asking your questions, why not? And if the answer is it's because I don't like doing it, that's not an acceptable answer. We can help with that. If the answer is I need to know how to do it better, we can help with that as well.
And then we've just had another question from Steve Gerlin. I know my answer, but I'm intrigued to hear yours, Glenn. Would you tailor any of the delivery to B2C rather than B2B?
Yes, in that B2C markets, the decision making tends to be certainly very discretionary and perhaps a little bit more intuitive. Repeating a word from the previous question. B2B tends to be more, fact-led. It's less intuitive and it's more timely in that they'll take that. However, I think the basic principles are exactly the same. This is why I said, I think in the intro to this, I've used Panda in both B2C and B2B. I'll give you a really simple, crude example. When I was at Auto Trader, the team were trying to treat the private salespeople as important as the trade salespeople, because that may be the only car they wanted to sell that time, but they were probably likely to be a buyer as well. And we used to make sure that they got the same level of professional attention, and we would explain to them why having a slightly bigger picture and a few more words helped. And that really helped us with both sales conversions and selling up. And it's all about solution selling to me. If you've got a solution, in this very simple scenario, if you want to sell a car, we will give you the very best advice we can. Sometimes consumers want to rush into a decision before you're ready. So if you're in a B2C marketplace, you're probably going to have to slow them down a little bit and find some tactics to do that, because they're in a hurry. I just want to know, have you got it? If you want the Amazon culture, I mentioned Colin McLean this morning. He said it'd be really good to use an iPad a lot. Get yourself an iPad, send Amazon, Bosch, job done. And that's fine, because that was a transaction. If you are in relationships where, as a consumer, they might be buying either multi-products or multi-times. So if you're providing well-being, or you're providing exercise, or you're providing food. So if you look at the food industry right now, which is predominantly business to consumer, you want a fantastic experience. So it's slightly more emotive and slightly quicker. A great question.
Yeah.
Sorry, Kaylin, your answer was?
Well, mine was in agreement. So when I worked at my previous role, and definitely with marketing, we would definitely tailor like the wording. Like with B2C, you could make it more personal. You could be a bit more creative with your graphics. While with B2B, it was more kind of corporate and a little less fun. So as long as the key messages are the same, it's just making sure that how you word it is suitable for your audience. And as you said, you prepare so you know what your audience is about, and you make sure that your message is suitable for the audience that you're trying to reach.
Yeah, spot on. We say in point 2, tonality in messaging is really, really important. I quite like that. I'll use that, Katie, and I'll pinch that from you. That actually in consumer, it can be a bit more visual. It can be a lot more fun. I like that. Thank
you. Right, so poll, and then we'll move on to point 4. So bear with me 1 second, everyone. So I've just launched the poll. So it's, do you use telephone to communicate with your customers and prospects? So as mentioned, it's just along your taskbar at the bottom. So the answers are sometimes, always, or never. So I'll just give it a couple more seconds while everyone responds. Right, we'll leave it there. So I'm gonna share the results. So we had 67% of people said sometimes they use the telephone, and only 33% said always.
if we preset this, these are I would have almost come up with these figures that's it. And I think of the 67% who sometimes use the phone, my question to them is, why is it only sometimes?
Feel free to pop your answer in the chat function and we can discuss it later.
Okay, should we go on to the next slide?
Yep.
Okay, so you've established needs and wants. You know that what they want and need is relevant to the products and services you provide. So there is synergy here that you can actually tell them about how your products and services can provide them with solutions. And I do use that word a lot, solutions. Solutions is about not just what it is, it's about actually, you've got an issue, you've got some pain, you need some ROI, I can help you with that. Okay, this is where the disciplined salesperson wins out all the time. And this is why Panda always works. You need to be replying to them in direct relation to what they told you. It's all, well, if you think about it, it's rude for you to ask them loads of questions, look as if you're paying loads and loads of attention and almost ignore everything they've told you because you've got your pre-prepared speech ready. This is what we do and this is how we do it. And you can see it, certainly face to face. You hear it over the phone through silence, weirdly. You make a suggestion as to something that you think might work for them. And the silence is because they're thinking, we haven't even talked about that yet. Never slip into this is what you want mode. You know, that's the sort of, that's the old snake oil salesman. That's the old gift of the gab stuff. Yeah, right. I know just what you want. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Honestly, it's a passion of mine. To those kind of people, well, they don't even last. I'm not sure. I might reply to an email and say thank you, but I'm totally not interested. And I'll tell you why if you want to know. They never come back to me, by the way. Or I will say, no, this isn't for me. Do you want to know why? Because I'm polite. And believe it or not, I'm polite like that. So always. And that's why the pen and pad comes down in direct relation. So if you're having a telephone call and you're doing a needs diagnosis, write it down, write it down, and then write it down again. Don't think that you can remember, because I'll go back to my notes from today or my conversation I had with Colin this morning, and I'll look at them and I try and keep my notes clear and concise. And it could be, I've identified a pain point. Their current supplier is really shoddy with delivery. I've identified a return on investment. Then I can say, well, okay, to help you through this, my solution would be this. What we will do is we'll make sure that we get some delivery processes in place, which you'll see we'll have a service level agreement that will satisfy that for you. And you see, it isn't rocket science, any of this, but it is common sense if common sense exists, and it's structure. Make sure the benefits are not just features based, the emotive side of it. So just a really simple definition for when you want, for those that are on the call today, or when you get to read this later on. Features are about, they give you a bit of credibility. Think for features, what does it do? So I use this, and a pen, what does a pen do? It helps you write. That's a feature. It's a feature. What are the benefits? Then you come on to that. How it will work for them. So when you're coming up with your solutions, present them in such a way that the solution is how it will work for them. So what will happen is, I'm using the delivery scenario example here. So what will happen is we'll do X, Y, and Z, which means that your deliveries you won't have to worry about them again. They'll be on time. If anything, if you need instant contact, you've got it. That's the solution. That's their problem. That's their pain. That's their return investment taken care of in direct relation to something that they've told you. If you said something like, well, actually, we pride ourselves on our delivery, and they haven't mentioned delivery. So actually, delivery is not an issue for them. You know, why are you telling me that? I don't have any problems with delivery. Actually, now you're mentioning it, I might just stay where I am because their delivery is really good. So actually, talk yourself out of it. That's why these 3 and 4 have to be in direct. So just this section's actually got more than one slide, which is unusual for me. Never try to overcome objections. You will read sales manuals, you'll read learned salespeople saying, ignore objections. I'm completely different. This is about relationship selling. I'm not trying to sell you something now. I'm trying to build a relationship with you where you might choose to buy something from me, but it will be an informed buying decision. And actually, I'll bring them, welcome them, and agree that they're valid. Cost is always, always, always a valid price objection, and it's not unique. And tell them it's not unique to me. When I talk to potential clients, or I talk to prospects, I always understand that in the back of the mind is, what's this going to cost me? That's fantastic. You should be doing that, because the conversation we're having should lead us to such a state where we're actually, the cost is more than counterbalanced by the benefits. Why not do it right then, rather than get to the end? Oh, it sounds a really good idea, but I can't afford it. Because then you've got to backtrack all the time. This bit about objections is often, where people have lots and lots of questions. So we might get a few more questions at the end of this particular section on overcoming objections. But again, I'm happy to answer them as generically as I possibly can, but I'm more than happy to take them up on a one-to-one basis. Okay, price. We know that price, I, without being clever, tried to use the word investment. So, your investment in the things we do together, and it is an investment, is going to get you these things. Because you know what they want. You know that if they're investing in their needs and wants, then actually they're making the decision for you. And you will find over time, once you measure this as part of your sales processes, you'll actually find that people making buying decisions becomes easier, because they're saying all the yeses all the time. So, to me, the worst possible outcome is when they let me think about it. Because for me, that means I've failed. I haven't done my job properly. I either haven't prepared myself, I haven't engaged with them, I haven't got their attention, I haven't done a proper needs and wants diagnosis, I haven't found out what they want, because there shouldn't be anything. But please ask them. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. I wouldn't expect you to make a decision right now, but what is it you need to think about? Because it will help me in my thinking as well, because it may well be that I haven't covered something in enough detail, and none of us ever have been and ever will be word perfect at every presentation we make over the telephone or face-to-face. There's always a gap, but it doesn't matter. Ask it, is it cost? Is it price? Is it change? What is it? And if they're still talking to you, then that is a really positive signal. The fact that, yes, they want to think about it. Not a lot of people, if we look at the difference between B2C and B2B, B2C transactions can be quite quick, and they could be, I don't know, 15, 20 pounds, 50 pounds quite quickly and gone. And actually, if it comes and it isn't exactly what you want it to be, you might have a little bit of buyer's remorse, but actually it's balancing. Whereas if you are moving from an existing supplier of products and services to another one, the long-term opportunities and the long-term risk are massive. So they might want some time to think about it. But don't just let them get off the phone saying, I'd like to think about it. I would say, specifically, what do you want to think about? Because I can do exactly the same, and I can come back to you. Okay. Last one on define your solutions. This one's the top one's brilliant, and I learned this from a very, very, very clever salesman called Grant LeBoeuf, if I pronounce his surname correctly. He's got a book on Amazon that you can buy. I think it's called The Art of Selling or something similar. And he did a presentation at a client's conference 2 years ago, and he said, don't take people to buying decisions too soon. Use a phrase like, companies like yours or companies similar to yours have chosen to work with us because it's taken away their nervousness. They don't really know you very well right now. They probably like you quite a lot, but then they're not in a trust situation now. But it actually, and if you want, and I do this all the time, you can actually name those companies if you think it's relevant. So we are already working with ABC Plumbing, XYZ Agricultural, because it's a fact of life. Really interesting topic called the loyalty ladder. Not for today, but it's really interesting. So again, if you want to think how to, so when you're defining your solution, just say to yourself, when was the last time when I made a proposal or at a meeting, I reminded the person I was presenting to that they weren't going to be our first and only customer. They were actually in a nice little group of people. And this is the perfect storm. If you know that those companies respect you and enjoy working with you, I name drop. And I would always say, please feel free, and I will say it now, if you want to know about the things that I do in the world of sales, I will more than happily give you some names, you choose, to talk to about me and what I do. And you're leaving, when you're defining your solutions, you're leaving them on a leisure of confidence and taking away their nervousness. Okay. Before we move on to point 5, which is action, shall we got time for one more poll, Kaylin?
Yeah, we've also got a question in as well, so let me know if you want to answer that now or
let's take the question whilst it's fresh in everybody's mind.
Yeah, so the question is from Frederick. Does Panda work in all cultural environments?
Good question. I can't think of one reason why it wouldn't. Now, it may well be in some cultural environments that people are less willing to engage with you at the attention stage. They are less willing, or for whatever reason, not able or not prepared to answer those questions. But in reality, unless you can do that fact find, that needs diagnosis, it's really difficult to match what you do. I'm answering it. I'm thinking it's a bit of a vague answer. It's a really good question. Never been asked it before. Perhaps Frederick would like to pick up offline. It's just some examples of how it could and wouldn't work. But why wouldn't it? Theoretically, because it's morally and ethically absolutely the right thing to do. I think that I've got some products and services that you might want to buy from me. However, I can't tell you what they are just yet, because I actually find out until I find out what you may want or need. I mean, that's a perfect storm. That's nice positioning. And if for whatever reason I can't, then I don't know how you overcome that one. I'm stumped. First time in years, but I've written it down. I'm going to think an answer to it, and I'll get back to Frederick or yourselves after that.
That's fine. We can do that. So with the poll, I've just launched it. So pop along to hit the poll function. So it says, do you dedicate time every day for sales? Answers yes, no, and sometimes. So I am conscious about time, so we'll just give it a few more seconds. And I'll stop it there. So I've just shared the results. So 44% say yes, 28% say no, and 28% say sometimes.
The answer, there isn't an answer, but my answer to this would be, if understanding Panda made you more confident about being involved in selling, and you understood that chunking your time down would help, the sometimes may go up to the yeses and the no's may go to the sometimes, because why wouldn't you? And I do little and often, please, little and often. Now, if you're a full-time salesperson, you don't get the little and often opportunity, but you probably have quite a large pool in which to fish. But if you're in a business where it's quite easy to get dragged down to move across into the day-to-day stuff, that's fine. Okay, right. One more section, and then just some questions for you at the end, which I've pre-prepared, which are on slides and not for me to ask you. And then I think we should get quite good to doing on time. So, under promise, over deliver. Simple example. I'll have the proposal with you by close of play on Friday. Is that soon enough for you? 99.9% of the people say yes. Get them to them on Thursday. How do you think they're going to feel when it comes in early? I wasn't expecting that until yesterday. You can even do a follow-up call then, if that's what you want to do. If you can, add value to the proposal after the initial meeting. I mean add value, not discount, because we've already gone through you giving your best price and your best terms early. Been thinking about the proposal, and actually I think what we could also do as part of the proposal is this. Can't do it in every case, but again, when you're testing yourselves through the Panda, every time you send a proposal, did you add some value? Don't know what that is because it changes B2C, B2B, and in every single case, it's slightly different. And actually, doesn't matter what sector you're in, the value that you're adding will be different for each client because it will be based on what they told you they want and need. Okay. Don't forget to thank them for the opportunity. And this last one, I can give you probably 4 or 5 examples of in a selling environment which drives me mad. So the complete reverse, I'll get that proposal to you by close of play on Friday. You get round to it on Monday morning. You all have heard of the round to it. You get round to it on Monday morning because it wasn't as important as you thought it was. This is why Panda always works, because once you do all these these daily disciplines. Okay, we've run out of time and we're running out of polls, Kaylin.
Sorry, I was just replying to someone in the chat.
Sorry.
So I know a few people have gone for sales calls, which looks good. We've got no more questions, but we've got one more poll. So just bear with me. I'm conscious that we are almost out of time. So I've just launched the poll. So it's, are you currently working with any other companies? It's just a simple yes and no answer. So feel free to quickly hit the button. I'll then do the results and then we'll tie it up, as I know it's now 11:30. Okay. Give it a few more seconds and I'm just going to end it now. Sorry if you didn't get a chance. So that's really interesting. So we've got 85% say yes and 15% say no. Okay. So those that are in the yes position can quite quickly, when they're talking to people and making proposals, can name other companies by way of a mini referral or a mini testimonial. Those that aren't, you follow Panda, and you very soon will be. So just one more slide, I promise. So did I prepare myself? These are rhetorical questions. This is why Panda always works. Did I prepare myself? Did I get into two-way comms straight away? Or was it a monologue? Did I find out their wants and needs? Did I present my services in relation to their requirements? And did I do what I said I was going to do? This is your checklist, your mental and physical checklist. Every single sales interaction you have, whether you've sent an email, whether you've had a meeting, whether you've sent a proposal, ask yourself these questions, because it will identify where you're doing things well, and there might be a marginal room for improvement, or actually you skipped a step. And normally it's you skip to 4 instead of 3. Okay, so that's the presentation over. The last slide is just really, which you can read offline. If you'd like to see this as an ebook, then fine, I'll get it across to you. Ask Kaylin and I'll send it. If you've got any questions about how this works, please do, because the most important thing for me is not today, and thanks Kaylin for organising, it's not today, it's what you do with today. And if it means that in the next couple of days you've got some more questions, fire them off, either through Kaylin or through me, and I will answer them quickly to the best of my knowledge and best of my ability, because it might help you become a little bit more effective at sales. Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm conscious, obviously, of time. So thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. What I'll do is I will be sharing a copy of the presentation along with some useful links that have been measured in the webinar shortly. If you have any further questions, feel free to send them to myself. I will be CCing Glenn in, and I'll also be sharing a copy of the recording, but that won't be until next week, just because we need to do some slight editing, and the guy who does it is currently on annual leave. So I promise it will be shared, it will just be next week. So yeah, just to say thank you so much for joining us. And Glenn, did you want to say a final thank you and farewell? No, really. Hopefully you've seen it as an investment. Hopefully you've learned a little bit, but more importantly, you can now practice it. Perfect. Thanks everyone. Enjoy the sunshine while it lasts, and hopefully we'll get to see you soon at one of our other virtual events. Thanks for joining us. See you later.